Okay, so you want to own a cruise ship. On the surface, it looks like the greatest money machine ever built. Picture it, a floating city, thousands of guests, every single cabin paid for, sailing all year long. The biggest one on Earth, Icon of the Seas, carries up to 7,600 guests at once, plus 2,350 crew members, serving them day and night. Every one of those guests paid real money just to step on board, and once they do, they can't leave. They're surrounded by open ocean for a week straight. It sounds like you print money the second you pull away from the dock. It's not that simple, not even close, because that ship cost around $2 billion to build in the first place. And after every expense, the cruise line keeps only about 12 cents on every dollar. Let's start simple. What are you actually buying when you buy a cruise ship? You're buying a floating hotel, restaurant, casino, theme park, and shopping mall, all packed into one hull. Icon of the Seas is longer than the Eiffel Tower is tall, and it weighs 250,000 tons. It has water parks, dozens of restaurants, bars on nearly every deck, theaters, and a full casino. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it never fully stops. And it takes a small army just to keep the whole thing moving. Over 2,000 crew cooking, cleaning, sailing, and serving around the clock. This is not a boat. It is a small country that floats. Now, the money coming in. On paper, it looks completely unstoppable. Thousands of guests, each paying for a cabin, sometimes booked a full year in advance. The ship sails almost every week of the year, packed close to full every time. A single week-long sailing can bring in millions of dollars in ticket sales alone. And the big ships almost never sail empty. Cruise lines fill more than 100% of double occupancy, squeezing extra guests into every cabin. Demand is booming. More people are cruising now than at any point in history. So you've got a packed ship, paid in advance, sailing constantly. It feels like guaranteed money. This is exactly where you start dreaming. Don't. Because the ticket those guests paid barely makes you a thing. Let's follow the money on that ticket. First, the ship itself. $2 billion, paid off slowly over decades. Then fuel. And this is where it gets brutal. Icon of the Seas burns over 200 tons of fuel every single day. That's around $150,000 a day, just in fuel. Over $4 million a month to keep one ship moving through the water. Next, the ports. Every time you dock, you pay fees for every guest on board. Then food. You are feeding around 10,000 people, 3 meals a day plus endless snacks. Then maintenance. Saltwater attacks and destroys everything, constantly, without a break. Then insurance, marketing, dry docking, and repairs that never really end. Add it all up, and the ticket barely covers the cost of the trip itself. On the ticket alone, the margin is thin, 20 to 30% at best before the big overhead. After everything is paid, the whole business runs on a razor-thin edge. In a recent year, the average cruise line earned about 12 cents of profit per dollar of revenue. 12 cents. On a $2 billion ship burning a fortune in fuel. So if the ticket barely profits, how does anyone get rich doing this? Here is the trick. The ticket was never the point. The ticket just gets you on board. Because the moment you step onto that ship, the real business begins. And you are now a captive customer, surrounded by miles of open water. You literally cannot shop anywhere else. There is nowhere else to go. And that is exactly the plan. Here is the reframe that changes everything about this business. You think a cruise line sells vacations. It doesn't. It sells a captive audience it can charge for absolutely everything. The ticket is the bait. The ship is the trap. Because once you are aboard, almost nothing is actually included. That drink? Extra. The good restaurant? Extra. Wi-Fi? Extra. Photos? Extra. The spa? Extra. Shore excursions, booked through the ship at a huge markup, also extra. And then there is the casino. A floating casino out in international waters where the usual rules barely apply. Roughly 70% of everything you spend on board is pure profit for the cruise line. Compare that to the razor-thin margin they make on your actual ticket. The average guest spends a few $100s extra on board every single sailing. On a ship with thousands of guests, that is over $1 million in extra revenue per cruise. And it costs them almost nothing to sell you a cocktail you can't get anywhere else. So the entire ship is quietly designed to make you spend money. The layout deliberately walks you past the shops, the bars, and the casino. Your room key is a credit card you can never quite put down. There's no cash anywhere, so you never actually feel the money leaving your hands. Drink packages, dining packages, Wi-Fi packages, all sold to you before you even board. They lock in your spending before your foot ever touches the deck. The cruise is not the product, your wallet is the product. The ocean view is free. Everything standing in front of it costs money. That's how a business with a 12% margin still makes billions in profit. It is not a vacation company. It is a spending machine that happens to float. Now let's talk about the other half of the secret, the crew. Around 2,000 people keep that ship running, mostly hidden from view. And they are paid shockingly little for it. A cleaner or a dishwasher might work over 300 hours in a single month, for as little as $400 to $700 total. That works out to around $2 an hour. No days off for months at a time. Tiny cabins deep below the waterline. How is that even legal? Here is exactly how. Look at the back of almost any cruise ship in the world. It's registered in the Bahamas, Panama, or Liberia. Not because the owners live there, because of what those flags allow. This is called a flag of convenience. Under that flag, the ship follows those countries' labor laws, not America's. Cheaper wages, longer hours, and far fewer protections for the crew. And it gets even better for the owner. Because the ship flies a foreign flag, the cruise line pays almost no U.S. federal income tax on it. A special rule, Section 883, lets that ocean income slip through nearly tax-free. A $2 billion American business, flying a Bahamas flag, to skip the tax and skip the labor laws. So it sounds like a perfect machine. It absolutely isn't. Here is what can sink you. First, fuel. That $150,000 a day bill swings hard with oil prices. One bad year of fuel costs can wipe out your entire 12% margin. Second, one bad headline. A disease outbreak on board, an engine breakdown, a storm, a rescue gone wrong. Cruise lines live and die on reputation. One viral video hurts every ship you own. Third, recessions. A cruise is the very first thing families cut when money gets tight. Fourth, the debt. These ships are bought with billions in borrowed money. And when the world stops sailing, even for a few months, the losses are catastrophic. We watched it happen. The industry lost tens of billions of dollars almost overnight. And on top of all that, the ships themselves slowly wear out and lose value. Salt, sun, and time never stop working against you for a single day. This is a fortune floating on the water, balanced on a very thin edge. So who actually gets rich in cruising? Not the small player. This is a game of giants. Just 3 companies control most of the world's cruises: Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. They win on scale, on onboard spending, and on those tax-free foreign flags. The bigger the ship, the more captive customers, and the more you can charge each one. The loser is anyone who still believes the ticket price is where the money is. So, you still want to own a cruise ship? $2 billion to build, $150,000 a day in fuel, 12 cents on the dollar. It only works if you stop selling the cruise and start selling everything on it. You decide.